I find too often that teachers are not their own priority. And I think that that's where they're missing out on so much. And then they can almost get resentful of the Pilates people. And it's like the Pilates people are just being the Pilates people. They're showing up. They love you. They want as much of you as they can. It's your job to say, no, here are the days that I work, not available at that time. Here's what I've got. And make sure that your practice is a priority.
Welcome. Stick around if you want to learn about the art and philosophy of beautiful movement mixed with evidence-based exercise science. We will be having tough and inspiring conversations with other coaches, experts, artists, and athletes. Our goal is to challenge myths, explore concepts, and engage in healthy debate as we dive deep with intrigue and curiosity. I'm your host, Hannah Deutscher. I've been teaching dance, Pilates, and yoga for over 2 decades. And what I've learned is that movement can be the joy that integrates us all together. When we can trust and express ourselves through our bodies, we are unlimited in our ability to change ourselves and our communities for the better. We, as movement teachers and coaches, have the power to help people experience this for themselves. Okay, everyone, let's dive in. Exchanging ideas and changing people's lives one session at a time. This is the Pilates Exchange. Welcome back to Pilates Exchange, everyone. I'm really excited to have our guest today, Lesley Logan. This is very exciting. I'm a kind of a geeky girl fan, which I'm excited to meet her and get to know her. And we're going to be doing this at the same time. So you listeners at home, this is Lesley's and I's first actual meeting. I've been kind of stalking your Instagram and websites for a while. So this is really exciting. Welcome.
Oh, Hannah, thank you for having me. And it's not really stalking if I put that stuff out there for you to enjoy and indulge in. It's only stalking if I see you outside and then I'm like, oh, how did you get here?
we live too far away from each other for that, but that would be really creepy. So no, don't worry.
Okay, just like really funny. In the morning, I don't know if anyone actually gets ready to go, but I go out for the day. But when I walk my dog, I do not get ready for the day. I just go out the way I woke up, right? So I've got like a jacket on, a beanie on, I've got my dog, I'm coming up to my door and this guy like says hello behind me, which is not something you always hear and not anything you want to hear from someone that you like don't recognize the voice. So I turn around, I've got my dog though, so I'm not really worried. And it's a guy at the end of the sidewalk and he's my new neighbor. And he's like, oh, my girlfriend loves you. She's so excited. She wants to meet you. And I was just like, that's so cool. Yeah, just anytime. Stop. I don't know. This is a little strange for me. So tell her I said hi. And then I got in. I was like, that was how I need a better response for when someone recognizes who I am outside my house with a jacket and a dog.
That's so fun. That's happened to us a few different times in different cities because we live in Germany, my husband and I, and so it's happened outside of our little Nuremberg, like our little town a few times, and they'll recognize Chris, and it's like you see him creeping around a little bit, and then they introduce, and it's like, oh yeah, this is so cool, but very awkward sometimes, very fun, but very awkward when you're not prepared for it, right?
We're not prepared, and also I think the good thing is I almost don't need to be prepared because I prefer to be a human to people than talk to my publicist, schedule with my, that would be so weird. So anyways, but thank you for watching all of my videos. And thank you to everyone who's listening, who does that as well, because you guys really don't, I know I say it when I say it in my videos and I do my lives, but it really does mean a lot when you comment and you like, and you tell me what you want. Otherwise I'm making it by myself in a vacuum. And that's weird. It's supposed to be, it is collaborative in a sense, because what you guys, the questions I get and what people say they like and what they don't like allows us to go, okay, how do we make this more informational for people and accessible?
Absolutely. And it's that dialogue that I really think that the both of us are interested in. And I think that's such a beautiful place, because it's not just giving. And it's really like, what do you need? What do you want? How can we be generous with the information that we have? And I think that's really the mark of a true teacher.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. So you want me to introduce myself? I think you asked me to do that.
Yes,
why don't we do that? In case anyone who doesn't, if you don't know who I am, that's totally fine. I'm Lesley Logan. I co-founded onlinepilatesclasses.com and Profitable Pilates many, many years ago. I think the best thing to say is I got into Pilates kind of kicking and screaming. And so if we go back to 2008, I was lonely and living in a town I graduated college. And I actually just wanted a friend, and a girlfriend I worked with was like, come to a Pilates class with me. And I said, that is a BS workout. I think it's infomotional stuff. I'm not going to go. But there's a part of me inside that was like, you need a friend and someone's actually inviting you to something that's not a bar. So like, why don't you go? So I went to the class and I fell in love with, I was in mat class and I fell in love with the work. I felt parts of my body I never felt before. I felt like what it's like to have my mind clear of all thoughts, which is like really hard. I'm an Aquarian. Anyone who understands, like I'm in the clouds all the time, like just go, go, go. And so I left that class changing my work schedule so I can go to class every single day. And I did. And then the more I went, the more I realized I'm like, oh, I don't actually need to live here. Like, I don't need to live in this town right now. So I went to work that day and someone's like, who was another store, was like, hey, I quit. And I was like, oh, I'm going to ask for your job. So I did. And I moved to Los Angeles. And that's where somebody was like, you should become a Pilates instructor. And I was like, I can do that. And so 2005 is when I did my first class. 2008 is when I became a teacher. And I was very lucky in my career to actually have picked a really great teacher to work for. I was very specific. I'm like, I really like her style. I like how she is. I like her energy, and I still want to mentor. So I actually got a job working for her so I can get paid to learn. And she, as I kept taking workshops, she was like, you know all as much as I do. It's a few years in. And she's like, you should go to where I go. And that's how I discovered Jay Grimes' studio, Vintage Pilates with Sandy Tomoda was at, and Karen Frischman. And I got to study with them for many, many years, and it happened to be a mile from my house. And so because of all of that work and because of my career in retail and in business, I actually got to travel the world helping studios grow their businesses, helping teachers learn how to teach more like what Joe had intended, and not necessarily to change them as a human, but just kind of like, here's the intentions of that you might not have known, so you can incorporate it in your own style. And that was just the most fun thing. So now here we are. It's 2025, Hannah. That's insane. And I love what I do. I get to help people. I get to help teachers and Pilates lovers understand their practice for themselves. And then the teachers can take that and teach that to the clients as well. So clients who are listening, like, I love when clients are enthusiastic about learning the method. I think it's so cool. I think you have more agency. And for the teachers, if the more you're curious about your practice, the more it will affect your teaching. So that's kind of why I do all the things that we do.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. That helps me get a little glimpse deeper into what makes you tick. What did we say? Like, I would love let's divide people up into 4 different groups right now. We have our Pilates people that just love, like where you were at the very beginning. You fall in love with us. So that'll be one group. Then we have our second group of people that will be the aspiring Pilates teachers.
Okay.
Aspiring, not yet there. Then we'll have a group that will be the newbie teachers. And then we'll have our fourth group, the more mature teachers that will say after 5-10 years of people. Okay.
I think that's a great spot. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let's go through, because you've also been in this a few decades like I have. If there was a piece of advice that you could give separately to each of these groups, because they're on a different path, right? Like a different understanding of the method. If there was one thing that you could impart and say, hey, this group, if you would focus on this, it would open up a new world for you.
Mm-hmm. I'll start with the Pilates people first, because that's where everyone should start, right? And I think if you are not resonating with that category, I think you should remember what it's like to be a Pilates person, because I think you can go back, and if you didn't do this, you can kind of retrain that into yourself. I really think that if you're consistent and you find a teacher that really speaks to you, that is going to be the best thing that you ever did. Not that I want people to have multiple teachers. I really do think that you can have multiple teachers because they're all going to have a different eye, because based on their own body's experience. But I think, like, if you can find someone that you just can't wait to get to that class or that session, whether or not you ever become a Pilates teacher or not, doesn't matter. Like, your consistency and your growth in this method will be unstoppable. And so I think that I would say that. And if anyone in the other categories heard that and it's like, I didn't have a teacher who really spoke to me, or I had a really bad experience, or I'm not consistent, what can you do to kind of be a Pilates person again and try to do that? I think that would be the best thing. For my aspiring teachers, my best piece of advice is like, just get through it, because the first training program is not the last training program, and you just got to get to it. You're going to have a ton of questions that are unanswered. You're going to feel like your teacher trainer is just telling you to trust the method, because at some point they're going to have to say, you just got to do it. You just got to do it. Right. So I would really say that. You asked for one piece of advice, and I'm not a shorthand person. So, and then the other thing I would say to those aspiring teachers is like, get out of your manual and get into your body.
Ooh, yeah,
Like,
that's a good one. Mm-hmm.
That's so good. I love that. That should be a quote. Okay.
We'll make it.
There we go. For my newbie teachers, my teacher Jay always said, you're a new teacher for 5 years. And I really resented that at like year 4.5 when I really wanted to like study with him. I had to like wait. I had to wait my turn, so to speak. But he's not wrong. There's a lot of stuff that you shed after 5 years because you kind of seen it. You don't get as nervous about things. So what I would just say is like, be new, be curious, find teachers, probably be a new teacher for you. It might be the same person when you're a Pilates person, you're a first teacher trainer, but find other teachers that really inspire you to show up for you and inspire you to be curious and not a perfectionist or like it has to be right or black and white. Pilates is not black and white. Pilates is very gray. Pilates is very gray. And then for my people, my teachers on that 4th group, my loves, if you are not protecting your practice, you will burn out and the world will lose you. Period of story. What I find, the thing I hear a lot of times from teachers who are feeling stuck is like, I got to find my place in this industry, my path. Like, what's my purpose in this industry? Oh my God, you don't need to do any of that. You need to protect your practice and really make sure that the people you are the best here on this earth to serve know who you are. There is this weird ladder that exists in the Pilates industry that I think is baloney. It's really stupid. You get to create your own path and stop trying to fit yourself into some box and instead really protect your practice, protect your boundaries, love yourself, because that loving energy and that protection of your practice is going to make you feel like a magnet to other Pilates people, to aspiring teachers, to new teachers. So your fulfillment in this world will be, you're just going to feel amazing because you've made yourself the priority. And I find too often that teachers are not their own priority. And I think that that's where they're missing out on so much. And then they can almost get resentful of the Pilates people. And it's like the Pilates people are just being the Pilates people. They're showing up. They love you. They want as much of you as they can. It's your job to say, no, here are the days that I work, not available at that time. Here's what I've got. And make sure that your practice is a priority.
Great advice. And actually that came just at a perfect time for me as I like start to dial back on my own teaching, because it's a lot of hours running a studio. You know how it is running, a physical brick and mortar plus an online business, plus all the things. I have not been as protective of my own personal time and boundaries as I would like to. So this whole new year is all about putting those in place.
Oh my God. Boundaries are kind. And this is like, this is not even Pilates. This is like life, right? No one taught me that. I was raised, and it's not like, I'm not blaming my parents in the way that they screwed up, but like I was taught like, oh, invite everyone over. Oh, you're having this. Everyone should go. Oh, they invited you. You got to go. Like, no, actually none of that is true. Like, it's okay. And my own husband has taught me a lot as well. Like, he's like, it's okay to cancel. Like we said, we go to dinner with them. We're not feeling well. We're going to bump it to another week. It's not a big deal. You'll be a better person. Right. And I'm like, that recovering perfectionist in me, that's like, but we said we'd do it. So, like I have gotten to a new place in my life in the last 10 years, which this is when I teach. This is when I don't teach. I do feel for you. If you think I'm cold, I'm not. Like when a client can't come and I'm like, that's going to be 2 weeks slice of you. It kills me too. But also like, I cannot be who I am and do what I do running around trying to help everybody when they want to be helped. This is the time when I can advocate for you. And that's when I want to.
Very smart, very clear. I really like that. Really, really like that. I think that there's a lot of us, not only the teachers, that really needs to be working on that as well. That like I would say that when I'm coaching new Pilates people into the studio, that is probably the thing that they struggle with the most, is really finding that time and that boundary of like taking care of everyone else. But this is me time. This is my Pilates practice or whatever movement practice it is. And saying, okay, that becomes my priority because I'm the only one that's responsible for me. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like, by the way, we train people how to treat us, right? And for the clients listening, you too, like so often I had like clients going, they had standing appointments Tuesday and Thursday. And then like, oh, I have a friend in town for lunch. Oh, I have this going on. I'm like, this is not a standing appointment. This is now a beck and call to your calendar. So you need to tell your client, your friend, oh, I'm so happy you're in town. 12 o'clock doesn't work for me. I can do 1:30. you too, Pilates people, can actually have boundaries as well. Right. And then teachers, you have to know that, like, I get it. Like, I totally have been where I need the money. Like, I totally get where you're like, oh, if I'm not working, I'm not teaching, I'm not making money. But like, here's the thing. If you want a client list, a studio that fulfills you and fuels you, having one where like it's all whenever they want to come in is going to feel like you're herding kittens, and you're going to hate your business. You're going to hate it. And then they're going to feel it, and you'll start to attract people who like the you that's not real, the you that's just like kind of like gritting, doing this with gritted teeth, instead of going, yep, here are the times I'm available. This is when it is. It takes a while. It's going to be hard. There's going to be some tough lessons, but sometimes we have to be the lesson that people need to learn. And that's a life thing. That's not a Pilates thing. That's for everyone. Like, sometimes we have to be the no that they've never been told.
That makes sense. And like, we just need more of
that. We need more of that. We need more of that. I agree.
Like it was just so long in my life that I think sounds like we had a similar upbringing in that way, but it was like, yes, 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 go, go, go. And like any opportunity, especially like I have a dance background. So any opportunity that was given, like you have to say yes to it. There's a deep scarcity problem in the dance world. It took a long time to get out of that. And now the no is actually sometimes the most powerful thing that I could do for myself.
Oh, I have chills, Hannah. Does that feel good? Because the Pilates industry was built truly because of the passion of dancers. I mean, I'm not going to take away John Steele and all the work that he did with that studio and everything, but like a lot of the people who were spreading what Joe did across the world were dancers. I'm not a dancer. So like my mom was a dancer. She had the talent and the grace and not the body. And I was born and I have the arches. I've got the thing. Everyone thinks I'm a dancer. I'm so flattered by that compliment. I have zero grace whatsoever. I have zero coordinate. Like Pilates is the hardest thing I do with my life all the time. I'm like, how do I flow these things together? But we have to think about the dancing industry back then and even today. You're at the beck and call of like when they want you to work, and also they tell you how much you're worth, right? That's how the dance world is. They tell you the job is this is how much you're going to get paid for this. And you are not taught to negotiate. You're not taught to say like, actually, these are my rates if I'm going to be on a show. Like that doesn't exist, right? And so if we think about that, and then we think about how those people were raised in that environment and that's their work experience, and then they are running studios, it's no wonder why so many studios have people running around like crazy people trying to overwork, teach whenever, doing these long hours, and not truly taking their own medicine, which is like, this is your body and you must protect it. It's so, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. It's an observation for me. And so if those of you who are listening, if what Hannah and I are saying like resonates, like listen to what Hannah's done, it's like reclaim that, and you'll see that you'll be a better teacher for the clients, and your clients will actually be more consistent because they have to be, because these are the open hours.
Right. Yeah. And to add a layer on to what you were just saying, that I think that is very ingrained in the dance world. And then because I've talked about this many times on this podcast and other podcasts about how this infiltrated. Yeah. That was like a German English mix that was just going to happen. What was that? But we got in there and we're very much in the Pilates space. And so some of the things that we've been brought up into seem normal to us. So also, for example, in the dance room, even from young dancers all the way up to professional dancers, you need to wait until someone says you're allowed to use the toilet, take a drink of water, get some food if you're hungry. Like, you're not allowed to do that unless you've been given permission. Talk, say what you need. That's not an acceptable thing to do within the dance studio or in rehearsals or in a company. Mm-hmm. Things are slowly changing. But what that means is that sometimes, at least the studio owners and the Pilates teachers that are coming from the dance background that I'm mentoring have a very big problem with setting that time. Like I said it before, it's a struggle for myself as well. It's a very learned behavior that we need to unlearn in order to be an excellent teacher and a profitable studio as well. Because without those boundaries, like, how are you going to pour back into that cup so you can give again? There's no generosity left.
Yes. No, it's so true. Oh my God. when I heard all of that, there's like this person was like, going, oh my God, like these poor people didn't get to pee when they need to pee. Like all these things that are like terrible for your body. Like, even if you weren't in the dance world, what we're saying resonates, like be kind to yourself. You can't retrain all these things at once. And like, I'd practice one thing at a time, which is like, go to the bathroom when you have to go. And you don't have to even tell people, like, just go, like, that's it. So I don't know, like try one small thing, but it's really, it does fascinate me because as I teach mostly teachers privately in the world when I travel to do a lot of stuff. Personally, like all the classes that I create are ideally for the Pilates people, and then teachers should be their own best client. So that's for them as well. But I really am always trying to get people to like be in their body. What does your body need right now? Does your body need to rest? If this exercise, and I'll say it in class all the time, it's like, if this exercise is like no go for you right now, what exercise was a challenge? Go back and do that one while we're doing this one. And I say it all the time because people need to hear it 27, 50 times before they go, oh, I don't have to do the exercise that's not right for my body right now. I don't have to do that. No, you don't have to do that. And I find a lot of the teachers, sometimes they're afraid to ask questions. And I do wonder if it's like from a history of this world where like you're told. And I think like, I know I struggle with asking questions. Like, it's really funny that I'm a podcast host as well. Like, it's because it was something I'm like, I need to be better. I'm not good at asking questions. I'm kind of good at like observing. I'm really good at experiencing, but I'm not good at asking the thing that's on my mind. So I'm going to put myself in a space where I have to do that. And I'm jealous of people who just ask the question. And so I would just say, like, you're not alone. If you're like, I don't even know what to ask, that's okay. You can just say, I don't know how to ask this in a question, but I'm wondering what you're seeing. Like, you can try to wonder instead, because the questions can feel really heavy. And so if you're a teacher who struggles, like, I don't want to be embarrassed, I don't want to ask a question that's stupid. There is no stupid question to me in the Pilates space, no matter who you are. We all have different learning styles. We all have different life experiences with our bodies. Some people did not grow up moving their body. Some people grew up only moving their body and moving their body in ways that it maybe didn't want to move. And so I think your questions, when I'm asked them, they help me go, oh, it's an interesting way. That's what I said, but that's not what I meant. So how do I say that differently for people in the future? So like we all learn when people ask questions. And so I hope that as we are unraveling this onion of the interesting things in this industry, that people start to see, like, what can I do to make this more my own?
Yeah, both as the teacher, but also as the Pilates person, making your practice your own. And I love that we also try to create a space where questions are always asked and explored, and there's a feeling of curiosity always when you're going in for that practice. And I think that's a fun way to cultivate the whole class atmosphere or the studio atmosphere, because I think there's a little bit of like childish joy, right? Like this like wonderment of like, oh, my body can do that, or wow, that's interesting that happened, or this feels like this today, or whatever it is. And
I love that.
I think that brings us back to what you were saying, is like, even for our mature teachers, investing back into that wonderment of yourself in the practice.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the teachers I got to teach, she had breast cancer. And so her practice before breast cancer and after breast cancer, very different. And she kept saying like, oh, I'm not there yet. I don't know if I'll ever get there. Like, I can't do that. I could do that before, but now I can't do that now. And I was just like, there's a lot of can'ts, and why don't we just see what is possible? Like, I'm not going to make you do the full swan, but like, what's a small swan look like? What does this look like? How does this look? What can we grab the bars of the Cadillac and just see if we can pull? And what was so fun about that is like, one, unraveling the obstacles that had been put in front of her, whether it's from the experience she had or fear, right? And then the wonderment as we peeled the layers back. And I think all of us as humans have, when something happens to us, we can start to go, okay, well, I never want to experience that pain again. Now I have fear of that. I'm afraid if I try that, I'll fail. So we put these things up. And our teachers ideally are hopefully helping us like figure out what is possible. And as clients, we can voice like, I'm a little nervous about that, but being in the wonderment of what's possible. And she was here for a retreat, and having her in person by the end of the retreat weekend, she did 2 exercises she never thought she'd do again. And so that was so fun for her to realize how empowered she is and how much strength she does have. That's all in her. Then she goes back to her studio, different Cadillac, can't do the exercise. And now she's feeling a little upset about it, a little frustrated. And now it's like, hold on, the bars are different. There were different widths. So it's not that you can't do it. You just can't do it on that thing. And so it's really like our job as bodies is to really be curious, be in wonderment, and focus on what is possible. I think a lot of people tend to focus on what's not going well in a body, what isn't right in the exercise, what needs to be corrected. Like, I don't know about you, Hannah, I get endless questions on what's a good cue for this. What they really mean is like a correction. And I'm like, what if we just watch what the body is doing? Like, what if we don't say anything at all? What happens if we say nothing? And by the way, I say this from a place of someone who was trained to talk a lot in my first training program. So it's not that I don't understand where you're coming from. My first training program was like really into talking through each rep. This is how you do the first rep. This is how you do the second rep. This is how you do the third rep. And then you cue. And it was like, everyone's like writing down these great cues. But what if you look at the body and go, okay, what is happening there? What do they need? And instead of us correcting what's not going well, what if we're giving what they need so we can get what we want and they can get what they want, and being explorative? And so if an exercise doesn't go well in a body and we thought it would, then it's like, okay, is the setup right? Is it the right springs? Is it the right place? Is there another place we can do this? Like, there's a reason why we thought this would be possible and it's not possible. So what if we look around at those things? And I hope this really helps people, because sometimes we go, oh, they didn't do it, so they're not ready for it. Or maybe we have to put their legs in a different spot, or maybe the box has to go in a different spot, or, there's just a lot of different things. And that's why Pilates can't be black and white. And there's not a cue for one thing. There's what's that body doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're definitely on the same page for that. And I think there's also the layer of like, what I find interesting is like, what is the story that the Pilates person is telling themselves about that certain exercise?
Yeah.
Like, that's a whole fascinating, like
yes.
real deep on there. Like, it's maybe it's not that possible to dive deep within a group class, but like definitely for those personal training, like it's always fascinating to watch. I love that too. Just watch the movement, see what's happening, dig a little bit deeper. Where can we cue to help them feel it enjoyable a little bit somewhere else? But I've been always fascinated if there's time to peel back the layers a little bit and like, tell me about your experience right now. Like, how does this feel in your body? What do you think about this? Oh, I'm really scared about this. Oh, tell me about, I was trying to put down my shoulders because why are you doing that?
Yes.
That wasn't even part of what the thing we're supposed to be doing right now.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, I want to give credit I was taking some workshops for some CCs, and I picked this one that Mariska Brila did on fear. And there is it's called kinesiophobia. It's actually fear of movement. And credit to Mariska, it has like put words to something that I've been trying to observe in people. Like when they're scared of something, I'm like, you can do it. So like, and essentially like, if you can find out if someone's actually scared of something, then you can actually go, okay, well, I'm not going to make you do the thing you're scared of, but what if I actually help you figure out what to do if it goes wrong? What if we figure out the exit strategy? And then now that we know the exit strategy, how about I tell you why I think you can do this exercise? And how about we look at these other exercises that you did already that told me you can do this, right? And so that obviously happens mostly in privates. If you're teaching group classes where they're all doing the same thing, you can build those exercises into the class. And if you are telling them what is good, instead of saying good, but instead you're saying, great job on keeping your heels together, everyone. Oh, I love how everyone's able to lift their ribs up in this exercise. Oh my goodness, you guys are doing such a great job keeping your legs together. So then when you give them an exercise that's more challenging, more in air quotes, advanced, more complicated, you can say, okay, because you had these 3 amazing things that went so well, you guys are ready for this. I'm so excited for us to do this. And if you can empower people, you'd be surprised how they want to rise to the occasion. And if you can tell them, hey, if you're scared, here's what you do, right? When I'm teaching tendon stretch on the reformer, if I know people are ready for tendon stretch, we've done all the preps, we've done all the different things, I know we can do it. I literally say, if you're scared, here's what you can do. This is what's going to happen. Just going to bend your knees and sit down. Just bend your knees and sit down, right? And so if you can give them that, all of a sudden that fear goes away. They're more able to hear you, because once fear floods the brain, you are like, is it Snoopy with the phone? Like, right? So I think that's really important for people to know. But yes, in a private session, you can actually just truly ask, like, what is going on? What's going on in your mind right now? Like, what do you think we're doing here? And it's truly interesting because people have different things that they're connecting it to. And and it lets you know a little bit more about who they are and what makes them process, and it allows you to be a better teacher for them.
Yeah, and it is really, I talk a lot about the cue conversation that happens is not necessarily a verbal conversation, but it's observing and watching their body and really understanding that, and then stepping in with a good question, an open-ended question like that, because there's so much. I think that's, especially in a private, but it's so interesting and deep and exciting. And I think that's where, yeah, that's where that's a space that I find joy in as a teacher.
Yeah. I also want to say, like, for the teachers listening, be mindful of how much you're correcting people with your words. Because one, Joe Pilates, according to Jay, because obviously I'm not old enough to have met Joe, but according to Jay Grimes, he never told you what not to do. He never said don't. He would always tell you what to do. And so if you're always saying, don't do this, don't do that, like, first of all, I'm going to use the word don't judge yourself so harshly. But what you can do is notice, I just said don't. What do I want them to do instead? And then follow up with that. And then you'll start to retrain yourself to just remove the don'ts and only tell people what to do. And people be like, oh my God, the way you teach, it like speaks to me. Yeah, because you spoke to them, because you literally told them what to do. People want to know what to do. Your clients actually do, in a very subconscious level, want to perform for you. They want to be good for you. They want to do what you asked, right? The other thing that Jay always imparted was like, you had your mat and reformer, and you'd come in and you do that. And then you'd have your, in air quotes, exercises, like what yours were. And yours would be different. They'd be the exercises that Joe, we needed you to have to do better at your mat or reformer to get more exercises out of you. They could also be personalized, because there's like what your modality was outside of Pilates. But he always ended you on a high note. You always ended on an exercise you could do well. And I take that so seriously when it comes to my teaching, because I don't always get to teach people a second time. Like, that's not the world I'm living in today. Today, most of my clients are people that come to visit, or I'm out traveling. So I only get this one. And I really try to channel Joe on that. I'm like, okay, what's an exercise I think this person can do well and leave with their head held high and feel really good about themselves? And like that, I think, is something really important for the teachers, but also clients. If you are taking any place where you get to create your own workout, or you get to work out like in Joe's studio, make sure you're always ending on an exercise you do really well, because like our brains are trained to seek out what makes us feel good. So we actually forget, we don't even think about the things that stress us out or don't make us feel good. So if your Pilates practice makes you feel like you're not good at anything, you're not going to remember to go schedule it. You're not going to remember to prioritize it. You're certainly not going to be drawn to it unless you're like some sort of person who loves to be hated on, like a masochist of some kind. So like, I hope that like, if you get anything from this, like try to end people on something that feels that they can be proud of, that they did.
And I love that. They're going to think, hey, this is brainwashing.
It is.
It was so hard before, but now what happened?
You know what? I mean, there are people brainwashing people doing terrible things in this world. So us Pilates people may as well brainwash people into doing things that are really good for them.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, Lesley, that's so much fun. If you had any words for people going in for, so we are recording this in beginning of 2025. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world as it is. Do you have any hopeful words for Pilates people, studio owners, whatever, the Pilates culture as it is going into this new year?
Yeah, it's hard. We're recording this middle of January, you guys. I'm in Las Vegas now, but Los Angeles is my home for 14 years. It's where I like coming of age. I think they think about kids, but like where I came of age truly and came to know myself the most was in Los Angeles. And so like, I'm sitting here excited to talk with all of you and pretending like the world is fine. Like it's not on fire, right? But I think, and this is not a toxic positivity, I think we actually have to focus on what we can do in this world, because a lot of us are very lucky that where the horrible things are happening are not in our actual backyards, right? Like on our actual front yards, in our actual studios. And so when you have that, you must prioritize what your goals are, what your dreams are, your strength and stamina. You must, because that way you are really, really good to the people who need you and your friends who need you. And so I think what I often see in this Pilates culture is a lot of almost martyrism, like just overgiving and overdoing and never being enough. And if that is the way that the industry and culture continue, we will not exist, because that is not helpful for anyone. So what I hope all the teachers and Pilates lovers do is really, really protect their practice and protect themselves so that they can give energy in any way that it is. Energy can be money, time, consulting, whatever, to the people who need it. So that I really want to say, because I really think it's easy to get caught up on all the stuff that's not going right and then feel like you're not doing enough and then you're not doing anything for you. So then when crap happens nearby, you're just tired, and we cannot enter things that are hard tired. So there's that. But on a positive note, where I do think things are going to go really, really well for this industry is people are talking about Pilates all the time. I get like, it is insane to me how many people are now talking about Pilates, and whether or not you think where they're going is Pilates or not is besides the point. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter, because yes, you could argue, well, if they have a bad experience, they're not going to come here. You don't know that. You don't know that. So what we have to do is stop focusing on all the things that are not Pilates around us that are calling it that. Instead, focus on like, what do we do well? And how do we get that message out to people? Because people want Pilates right now. Lots of you want Pilates. So many people want Pilates, and they're looking for a place that speaks to them. They're looking for it, and not every place. So that studio that opened up down the street that is not at all what you offer, great. That's so good. Highlight how amazing what you offer is and why it's different than that. You don't have to name names. You don't have to say that, but you can easily, like for the private boutique studios, you can say like, at our space, there's no more than 3 people in a class. So it's tailored to you. It's personalized. It's a quiet, private space. And if you're a person who's all about big classes in here, you just say, we have affordable, accessible, like you get to have all these different things, right? So there's a way to make yours, what you do, the best thing in town. You just got to brag more, because right now people want it. So it's the easiest time to brag about yourself is now, because people want to hear you. They want to know it. They want to know what makes it well. They want to make it for them. So I really actually think that this industry is in for another really strong year, despite all that's going on. That might not feel like what's going to happen in your space currently, because I don't know where you're at, but I do think as a whole, Pilates is going to have another great year. Where I really think that people can do some things to make their businesses better or their practices stronger is like, how can you focus on what you're doing this for? Because if you think, oh, everyone's classes, I got to do classes, I'm going to say the pendulum will swing the other way soon, and people want privates. It always does. It always does. I was really lucky that beginning of my teaching career, I got to work at a high-end fitness club, and I got to see the rise of like the personal training program going. They needed more trainers to then it like didn't. People wanted the group fitness, and now they want the personal trainers again. So like the pendulum's it's always going to go really high on one side, one high on another side. What you have to do is make sure you understand, why are you doing this? What are you doing this for? Pilates people, are you doing this because you want to be able to do Pilates every day? Well, then maybe, yeah, you probably have to go to a place where you can afford to go every day. Or maybe you're like, actually, I want to be able to do this like twice a week with a private, so I get personalized teaching, and then I go to classes the rest of the week, or I do it at home and I'm taking what I learn. What are you doing this for? And you can actually make Pilates work for you. And the studio owners and teachers, you've got to stay true to what you believe it is. Doesn't mean that other people are wrong. And you're right, but like you're right in your space, because you know that this is how you like Pilates for you and how it's going to change bodies. And you have to teach in the way that you know is going to create the benefits you said you're going to do. So I really think that there's a lot of positivity. I think that there's a lot of people looking for it. And I really think that this is the teachers I'm speaking to right now, stop fighting over what Pilates is or isn't. Oh my freaking goodness. I can't even do Facebook anymore because I can't even go to a group, and I want to. Like, I'm currently raising money for a charity, and I'm like, oh, if I just went to these groups, I probably could get some people. And I'm like, I can't even open up that wormhole, because if I have to see another post about what is Pilates and what's not Pilates, are we Pilates teachers or Pilates instructors? I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
I know. I'm so done. How many podcast episodes do I need to dedicate? Blog posts, all this. Like, it is so tiring. I'm done.
It's exhausting. It's exhausting and it's a waste of time. And my point to all of that is, and you being exhausted is exactly the point. The best teachers in the world are if you're fighting over that, and then you're wondering how a group fitness version by a person trained over a weekend or not trained at all opens up and hires a bunch of people and puts classes at a cheap rate. They got to because you were so busy fighting over who's doing what. Get busy about talking about your awesomeness. Get busy about tooting your own horn. Get busy about really drilling in and zeroing in on why you do what you do and who it's for. And you will be successful. Period. End of story. You just will. It's how it works. It's always the loudest person, right? So doesn't mean they're right, but it's what people hear. So stop looking at other people's yards and trying to judge whether it's right or wrong. And instead really get to know who you are and why you do what you do, and make sure that that is very clear on your websites. It's clear in your marketing. It's clear when you talk to your clients. Your clients are clearly giving that information in their own words to their friends. To this day, I don't care how popular social media is, to this day, most of the studios that I coach are hitting 7 figures and their social media platform is nothing. They don't do ads. They're not worried about their followers. They are worried about what's happening in their studio. So focus on your studio, and I promise you will have a great year. You will be amazing. So that's what I have to say to your other question from minutes ago, is that it's going to be a great year if you want it to be.
Well, that is the most perfect way to wrap up this podcast episode. Thank you so much for your time today, and really for sharing your little gems of joy along the way. We really appreciate it.
Hannah, thanks for doing what you're doing. Podcasts like yours are important. People learn from different ways, and they often have to hear things multiple times. So thank you for having me. And thanks again for watching the videos, and you're not stalking. And also to everyone else who does, because those of us who teach Pilates are very special. I think we get to live a very special life. We get to change people's lives in a way that PTs can't change them. Personal trainers can't change them. We get to help people actually be taller. And we know what having a power stance, we know what that does for the brain, for the hormones in the brain, right? We know what that does. So we really are making the world a better place. Got to pat ourselves on the back. And so thank you, Hannah, for putting out work that helps remind people and gives them a space to come and be with their people. Thank you. And to the Pilates people listening, your teachers need you, not just because you come, but they have a gift to give this world, and you allow them to give that gift, and it actually brightens their day.
That's so true. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. A great cost-free way of supporting us and the podcast would be to give us a 5-star rating. You could also look down into the show notes and grab any one of the free resources for teachers. I hope to see you next week on the Pilates Exchange. Happy teaching, everyone.